Definitely appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure.
Just going to talk about the state of the city that you have coming up. I don't think a lot of people quite know what that is or what to expect from that. So what can you tell us about that?
So, the state of the city is something that mayors have done for a long time. I think that a lot of people don't know much about them, though. Everyone knows what the State of the Union address is, and then there's a State of the State address that the governors give, but mayors do the same thing, and they do a State of the City address. And basically, I see it as a variety of different things. It's both a report of what your city council and your staff have been doing for the past year, as well as a time to educate on what is taking place, why we're doing things that we said we're going to do, and it's also a time to kind of roll out new things that we have that we're working on. Sometimes those are a lot, and sometimes they're not as much, but again, at the end of the day, it's making all these moving pieces work together so that you can see really what your staff and your city has been up to.
Okay, I think it's lost a lot of people that it's like start big country, State of the Union, then you go state,
right.
Then you go city. It's still the same economic problems, economic process, same governmental situations. Smaller scale.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I think it's so funny because the municipalities are the closest to the people, right? So they're the ones that you see in the grocery store and you see out on the street, you see at the festivals, and clearly, I think especially in Maricopa, what you have is you have people that are really interested in what's going on and they want to know. I think a lot of the problem falls is that the municipalities are often slapped with the same. What's the word? Slapped with the same idea that the federal government and municipal government is exactly the same. And nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I think that the paradigm is shifting. It used to be considered that the feds were the ones that did everything. And now I think with political gridlock in Washington, D.C. and others, that the reality is people that get things done are on the city level. And so it may not be as a large scope as a federal or state level, but certainly because it is closest to the people, I think being responsive is key. So we want to be able and listen to people and say, okay, that's a great problem, how do we fix it, and get on it.
Okay. And then as far as when the State of the City address is happening, when is that?
So that'll be this Thursday. It starts at City Hall at 6. My address will actually start at 7, but we have some hors d'oeuvres and some networking that takes place. And I think any of these types of events where you can meet kind of the, I don't want to call it the who's who of the city, but the movers and shakers that are out there that are interested, the business owners, it's a wonderful time to come and meet people and really see that, especially as a business owner, how do the policies and things that the city is working on affect your business, affect your quality of life, because it does. And so we want people to be in the audience, we want people to learn, and we want to learn from them as well. So it's a good time to report to them. But it'll be starting at 6, and then by 7 is the address.
Okay, and are there any kind of key points you're focusing on in the address?
That's a great question. I think it's a broad base. There's so much to cover. I mean, I kind of consider the city of Maricopa my baby. It's something that's like a small business to me. I could talk all day about it if you let me, but the reality is in about 20, 30 minutes, how do you take all of that and condense it into a short period of time? So certainly we're going to talk about economic development. We'll talk about transportation. We'll talk about all these big things that affect people on a daily basis. Like I said earlier, I always think that this is a great opportunity to educate people. And the big three, as I like to call them, is going to be points of conversation during the State of the City. And the big three, of course, are the 347 overpass, the I-11, like you just said, and also other transportation type issues, which really kind of boil into the I-11, but I would probably add the bigger third, which is actually flood control. And how do you deal with the lower Santa Cruz River, for example, and the Santa Rosa as they come through the city. And again, what we've been doing. But I think if you're waiting for the announcement that XYZ is coming here tomorrow, that's not always advantageous for economic development to work that way. You kind of let the cat out of the bag before it's supposed to be out there. So, but we're going to talk about some things, and we'll talk about the efforts that we're putting forward to attract new businesses here. And those are things I think people really genuinely want to know how the process works. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay,
perfect. So now that we've covered kind of state of the city, as far as just moving forward as the city, big projects coming, obviously, that have taken years and years to come place, and things are finally starting to come together. But I think because of that, people are still a little bit impatient about it.
Absolutely.
So what would you say to them? We're still like, well, construction hasn't started on the overpass yet.
Hey, I've lived on that side of the tracks for a long time. I totally understand. I wanted it done yesterday. But I think that's what motivates us. And certainly what motivates me is that how do we get these things done? And you're absolutely right. Patience is a difficult thing to come by when in reality, these big projects take a lot of years. But I've always said that if you do nothing, you get nothing. nothing. Okay, so you have to put the time in to make it happen. And so, you know, when it comes down to the overpass, there are so many steps. There's so many different people that control it. It's not just the city saying, hey, there's a need, identify it, happen. You know, you have to deal with ADOT, you have to deal with private landowners, you have to deal with negotiations, you have to deal with, you know, rules and regulations as to going out for RFPs, right, requests for proposals. And then you have to get funding. Funding doesn't miraculously materialize, you know. I mean, we're not the federal government that can just print money and tax unlimitedly. I mean, we actually have rules and regulations that we feel we have to live by. And so to that extent, it's just a matter of making sure that all the dominoes are in place before you knock them over. Because if you do it too early, the whole project could be thrown into disarray, and then what do you get? Another 10 or 20 years of waiting. And that's certainly what we don't want to see happen.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think that'll wrap it up here. So, again, appreciate you coming in for our InMaricopa Spotlight. And, yeah, so on behalf of Mayor Price and InMaricopa, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.